Each year during the legislative session, AFT-Maryland works hard on behalf of our members to bring democracy in the workplace. Under the leadership of President Kenya Campbell and with the guidance of Legislative Director Denise Riley, AFT-Maryland lobbies state senators and delegates to ensure the members of our state federation get what they need to have full democracy in the workplace. Let's take a look at a recap of some of the accomplishments, the legislative accomplishments, that AFT-Maryland had during this 2022 legislative session. Let's get started with a collective bargaining win for MTA sergeants and supervisors.
HB 580 gives the sergeants and some supervisors in the Maryland Transportation Administration collective bargaining rights. They did not have that right before, while the rank and file police officers did have that right and do have a collective bargaining agreement.
Collective bargaining provides an opportunity to address issues moving forward. So I don't know if anybody knows, but by law, we at the MTA were precluded from filing grievances. So we had no redress for issues in the workplace. So now, outside of litigation, you had no other form of redress, which to me, sometimes that's a hammer for an ant. We should be able to address each other, speak to each other, and conduct ourselves in the workplace professionally, and be able to address any issues and abrogate those same issues without having to go to court and seek legal remedy.
AFT-Maryland and MCEA was helpful in so many ways. First of all, because of the experience that they had. They had the connection with the senators and with the delegates and knew exactly what to do. With us being, a small agency and we not having a contract already at this level, we had no idea. MCEA told us what to do. They connected all of the dots and put us in the correct places. All we had to do was show up, not be afraid to speak up for ourselves, and then now we have a contract.
MCEA and AFT-Maryland were critical in this process. So not only did they bring the legislators on board to sponsor the bill, but at key moments, they provided insight and critical thought process that were indicative of a successful move toward collective bargaining. And then at critical moments, when the governor vetoed the bill, they in turn used their knowledge, their insight, their relationships to proffer a way to have the bill go over the finish line. So MCEA, which is where we started, and AFT-Maryland has, as a part of their grouping, provides strength in numbers. So our numbers as an individuals are small, but collectively we have that desire. And then that desire was fostered with the knowledge and wherewithal and the backing of MCA and AFT-Maryland. So going forward from there, there's strength in numbers. So although our numbers may be small, our backing is substantive.
It was vetoed by the governor, and they got the veto override. So we're very happy that that was accomplished during this session.
An initial offering of Governor Hogan's budget cut $140 million from Baltimore City and Prince George's County schools combined. Those two school districts teach nearly 48% of all African American students in the state. Because of the lobbying efforts of AFT-Maryland and our educational allies, the governor submitted a supplemental budget with a full restoration of the funds to Baltimore City and Prince George's County schools.
Well, Governor Hogan, who is required to put in funding for all school districts because of the blueprint for Maryland's future, which we passed a couple years ago, went and shortchanged Baltimore City and Prince George's County, which account for 48% of all Black students in the state. Thanks to the leadership of Delegate Stephanie Smith, who's leader of the Baltimore City delegation, and AFT-Maryland, BTU, and MSEA, we all worked together to fight to get that money back.
It was my honor to work with AFT-Maryland to ensure that we had the resources that our Baltimore City students and teachers need. I'm chair of the Baltimore City delegation, but most importantly, I'm a Baltimore City Public Schools parent. So I know firsthand how hard our teachers and paraprofessionals work to ensure that our young people are prepared, but they need every dollar that they're owed in order to do so. So it was my honor to work with AFT-Maryland to get the $99 million back that we were owed.
AFT-Maryland represents a variety of public educators, including those who are teachers in our state correctional facilities. Those workers saw a change in their status that makes them full state employees.
House Bill 139 will allow the teachers in corrections that are special appointments to be full employees of the state, meaning they'll be under the Personnel and Pensions article of the state, which will allow them to be under the collective bargaining agreement and have file grievances and also be able to help negotiate their salaries and such. So it's really important that they get that kind of recognition.
It was important to make sure that educators in both the juvenile services schools and the adult corrections facilities were considered full state employees, because prior to that bill, they didn't have the rights that other state employees had, particularly other members of the AFT and other union members. They were essentially at-will employees. They didn't have the ability to contest a firing. There were all sorts of basic workplace rights that they didn't have access to. And that's a practice we've seen across state government. So ending it here, I think, hopefully will help lead to an end to that practice across state government.
Like I said, they couldn't file grievances. They couldn't have the union represent them. They couldn't negotiate their own pay. All those things are really important to be under the collective bargaining agreement. It went under impact.
Not have gotten any of the union-focused bills I worked on this session passed without AFT-Maryland. The reality is that as long as our country has existed, it's regular people, regular middle-class people that have stood up and demanded more from their government. So when we see bills like the bill that I passed to move folks in juvenile services and adult corrections into full state employment, that's something that could not have happened without the advocacy of AFT members.
Last year, they put through a bill that would put them, they're going to be back under a new Board of Education that will run the correctional education system. The problem with that was that people were afraid of what kind of protections they would have under that law. So the Delegate Lukey was great, and he said that he would make sure that anybody who was a special appointment in juvenile and adult corrections would become a full state employee.
2020 saw an explosion of visitors to state parks, and our Maryland State Park Ranger associates stepped up and answered the call, tending to the myriad of needs that visitors to state parks would have. However, those folks were not being fairly recognized nor compensated for the work they do to ensure Marylanders could enjoy visits to the state park. With the help of their union impact and AFT-Maryland, the Great Maryland Outdoors Act addressed exactly what those park rangers were asking.
We also found out that there was going to be a comprehensive bill on the state parks called the Great Maryland Outdoors Act. And what we did was we asked the legislators on that bill, and that was Delegate Lukey and Senator Elfreth, to put in the provision that would give the park rangers first responders status as well. It was going to move in the Great Maryland Outdoors Act, and we were very happy with that the work the Senator Elfreth did on the bill.
We were crafting the bill, and we were thinking about what benefits we could possibly provide, again, to keep folks in state service. We lose a lot of folks to county or federal parks because they pay more. And one of the things is treating folks and their health needs seriously. One is that park rangers are exposed more than most people to ticks and Lyme disease. So we put a presumption in the bill that if, God forbid, a park ranger contracts Lyme disease, that it's presumed that they received it or they got it on the job and that they will receive the requisite health benefits for that. And we also ensured in the bill that we are naming our park rangers as first responders, and that's going to help with things like property tax credits and labor negotiations. It was a small measure that meant a lot to our park rangers, and it was very easily done in this bill.
Not only did they get first responder status, instead of being park ranger associates, they're now park rangers. They were also given some more policing rights to, like parking tickets and such. They were also given put on the hometown heroes, which was really great because then they have part of their pension tax free when they retire.
It was so important that we tackle this issue this year, and of course, involving AFT members. I'm a proud daughter of two labor household who helped send me to college, and I went to college on a union scholarship. So we couldn't do anything without the folks who are on the ground, the folks that are most impacted, and that's AFT members.
In many ways, 911 call center specialists are first responders. Their heroic work often saves lives or provides a calm and soothing voice during some of life's most stressful times. They are there for Marylanders at their time of need, and AFT-Maryland was excited to be there for them during this legislative session.
The 911 specialists were named 911 specialists in legislation last year. And this year, there was another 911 Next Generation bill passed. And in that comprehensive bill, we were able to get language in there that would make them first responders. So that makes Maryland one of the, now the 9th state in the country to recognize the 911 specialists as first responders. But what we are going to do is use that position to negotiate other benefits, possibly adding them to the hometown heroes. They can also take that into account when they're negotiating their own contracts, that they're considered first responders. And also we are looking at presumptive language on stress because of the job, but that would include them along with firefighters and police and other positions that are considered first responders.
Ask any school administrator who is among the most important personnel in their building, and they will tell you education support personnel. AFT-Maryland and our educational allies believe that their compensation should reflect their importance to our school community, and we went to work for them this legislative session.
SB 831, which is a bill that was sponsored by Senator Zucker and Delegate Henson, will provide a bonus for all education support professionals.
Our students see between 4 and 5 support staff members before even sitting in front of a classroom of a teacher. It's so important that once they go see the bus driver, the bus aide, then you have the crossing guard, the cafeteria worker, and then they walk into the classroom. And during that process, there's a lot of things happening with our students, and that is getting them undressed, dressed, and ready for school, for the class of the day, and making sure that they are prepared.
What they did with this year's bonus is the governor set aside $8 million, and that will have to be divided up amongst everybody. So we're not exactly sure what that will come to, the amount that it will come to for each person, but we do know that in the bill it will give $500 per person in 2024. As PSRP members came and testified either on Zoom or in person in Annapolis on the bill, and we're very grateful that they did that. It makes such a difference when members actually turn out to testify on a bill, because as I've said a million times, they see me all the time, but when members come in, then they really pay attention.
We want to say thank you to AFT-Maryland for helping us get this bill passed. We thank you. It makes us feel like you're going to appreciate us by giving us that money into our hands. We'll be very grateful and appreciated, because we feel like we're unappreciated, and we need to be appreciated. Even during all these different appreciation days, they don't appreciate us. So we need to see that the legislature is appreciating our support staff.
And here's some good news that every union member can get behind. Maryland is home once again to tax deductions for union dues.
When the Republicans passed their last tax break for the rich, we got our tax write-off at the federal level taken away. So AFT-Maryland put in legislation 2 years ago to give that tax break at the state level.
Passage of HB 172, which created this deduction for union dues in Maryland, was absolutely vital and fair. I mean, it was a question of fairness.
Thank you to Delegate Lukey, who is the majority leader, for putting this bill through. We will, of course, try to get that amount lifted every year until we're all fully covered. But the problem is the governor has not signed this bill yet, so we're still waiting his signature on this.
Maryland is now the first state in America to restore that deduction and to put working families on par with corporations, with lawyers, with doctors, all of whom are able to deduct their membership in the Chamber of Commerce and in the Bar Association and the Medical Association. It's only fair that union members have the same right. So passage of that bill was about the bottom line for working families, but it was also just a question of fairness.
Well, that's just a brief example of the work AFT-Maryland did during the 2022 legislative session. Be on the lookout for updates about Get Out the Vote efforts as we prepare for the upcoming statewide election.